Welcome to Truth Be Told. I'm Greg Borgon, your host for this video podcast. I repeatedly hear the refrain, you don't have enough leaders, or we don't have enough leaders, or where are all the leaders? After years of management, leadership, and observation, I've come to conclude emerging budding leaders aren't obvious to those of us who don't have the eyes to see them. In fact, the characteristics of leaders in the rough, so to speak, are most often experienced as annoying aggravations rather than counterintuitive indicators. If the prevailing leaders within an organization do not calibrate their perceptions, they'll never see the emerging leaders right in front of them. If your identification antenna is not properly calibrated, you could miss the many leaders in your midst. Characteristics of emerging leaders often drive experienced leaders nuts, leading to premature dismissal of these nascent young leaders in the process of becoming yet not having arrived. They may need cultivation, they may need training, they may need mentoring, they may need support and sponsorship, and they're going to need patience to develop into effective leaders. Your investment in them will be worth the effort. 5 characteristics of budding leaders that I've observed over many years in leadership roles include the following. They're insistent, they're inquisitive, they're impatient, they're often incognito, and they're innovative. Let's talk a little bit about the first one, insistent. They just never give up. They keep butting their heads, it seems, against the same wall or problem over and over and over again. You know the old saying, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. Well, to someone observing an emerging leader, it sure looks like they're backtracking over the same problem again and again. Closer observation, however, may show that they're actually hitting the wall at slightly different angles each and every time, learning from each obstacle and adjusting their approach accordingly. The key is they don't give up and they learn with each failure. Therein lies the difference between this type of an emerging leader and a lesser one. The lesser one always approaches the obstacle in the exact same way and has not learned any lessons as a result. They're more apt to give up after a few tries. So budding leaders are tenacious, they don't give up easily. View these characteristics in a positive light. Before jumping in, observe their behavior to determine their approach to solving seemingly intractable problems. You might just have a great leader in the making. The second characteristic or quality is they're inquisitive. They're always full of questions. They never do what you exactly tell them to do. They keep asking more questions, or even worse, suggesting ways it could be done better. They have more questions than you have answers. Man, that's irritating at times, isn't it? Don't you just hate that? This is our typical response. Part of the role of a leader as leadership developer and mentor is to suggest the direction and then work with the emerging leader on the approaches. Yes, it's irritating at times and consuming, but it helps grow a leader. Often the mistake of the mature leader is to interpret the attitudes and questions as disrespect and a critical spirit rather than using these opportunities to learn themselves about other ways to approach a problem. You might find that their ideas may indeed be superior to your own. Budding leaders, you see, are inquisitive. Their questions may not be polished, leading you to conclude they're being disrespectful or that they're challenging you. Don't look at it this way. See their questions as exhibiting a desire to learn. The third quality of a budding leader is they're impatient. They seek more responsibility before they may even be ready for it. They always want more responsibility. As the mature leader, you're always queasy about this. You want the person to advance as a leader, but you also have some doubts because you're not sure they're ready. If they exhibit the potential to lead and have been faithful in smaller projects in the past, then give them an opportunity to stretch. If they fail, observe how they handle the failure. What have they learned from it? You see, their development might require a guide by the side and not a sage on the stage. Part of the development process is placing people in situations that are a true stretch, but not so far that it destroys their spirit. As leadership developers and mentors, we don't want to put people in places where they'll fail. But if failure is not an option, you will not learn as fast as they can. They will not learn as fast as they can. Failure should be handled as a developmental iteration on the process to becoming a better leader. Seeking more responsibility, even if they're not ready for it, is a sure sign of a budding leader. Don't be impatient with their impatience. The fourth quality of a budding leader is they're often incognito. They're leaders by default. People defer to them, even if they haven't been designated as the leader. Let me give you this touchy scenario. They've been placed in a group or a team to carry out a task. Someone else has been designated as a leader, but as the project progresses, the group looks to this emergent leader for their opinion. This can be very hard on the designated leader, but the group doesn't seem to mind unless there's a strong clash between the two. Now, these budding leaders aren't always obvious in group settings. They're often on the peripheral, lurking just out of sight. They're exposed when others in the group look to them for an approval or for a response. They may be reluctant leaders and not see themselves as leaders at all. They may be mavericks or contrarians for that matter. They may be quiet and reserved. They are, however, clearly seen by their peers as leaders. Investigate how a budding leader is perceived by their peers and friends. Observe how they are engaged by others or deferred to by others. Observe how their influence is exercised. They may be rough and even difficult, yet conscious development can make them effective leaders. The fifth and final quality of a budding or emerging leader is they're innovative. They often go beyond what's asked of them. Emerging leaders often do more than they're asked to do, sometimes to the point of overdoing it. Although this can be a sign to senior leaders that time and energy was being wasted, it's also a sign that the emerging leader is ready for more responsibility. The emerging leader is not looking to impress, but rather to do the task or responsibility to their own high standards. Sometimes those standards are higher than what we have in our minds if we were doing the project. Observe how they adjust their leadership style to fit the situation. Remember, their unique wiring may result in unique solutions. Give them the benefit of their own identity. Give them room to operate. How do they adjust to a problem? What techniques do they employ in solving a problem? How do they engage others in resolving the situation? Innovation is taking what is and making it better. It is leveraging existing circumstances to produce a better outcome. Racehorses must be trained to run within the rails and not damage themselves in the process. So gentle guidance of innovators can ensure they'll excel within legitimate boundaries. Well, careful observation of potential budding leaders can yield a bumper crop of future effective leaders, if you have the patience and understanding of the qualities they exhibit. You may have to provide a safe place for their development and act as a buffer between them and others who may not appreciate their potential. One of the great attributes of a senior experienced leader is the ability to develop talent. Hopefully, the characteristics of budding leaders just described will help you to be that kind of leader. Let me leave you with key questions to consider. Number one, within your sphere of influence, who exhibits these qualities? Number two, who is insistent? Who's inquisitive? Who's impatient? Who's innovative? Who's incognito? Number 3, who have others written off because they couldn't see the potential within that budding leader? Finally, number 4, key question here, who have you written off that deserves reconsideration? Well, that's all I have for you today. If you'd like a copy of these qualities and the characteristics associated with each, please email me at hoawministries@aol.com. That is hoawministries@aol.com. Until we meet again, may God richly bless you.